Voted as the best TV station of the year. TVC News breaks into the core of every event as they happen. Following all nationwide big and impactful stories. Without the news from every perspective, covering every human angle. I am Veronica, bringing you the news you.
All right, then, thank you so much for staying tuned. The federal government, through the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security and Fundação Vargas of Brazil, have signed a Memorandum of Understanding to advance private sector development in fertilizer production, hybrid seed technology, and agricultural finance. The MoU was signed on behalf of the government by the Permanent Secretary of FMAFS, Mr. Temitope, Fashedemi, and the President of FGV, Professor Carlos Ivan Simonsen, at the FGV headquarters in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. That's on the sidelines of the G20 Leaders Summit. And State House Director of Information and Publicity, Mr. Abiodun Oladunjoye, revealed this in a statement that the details of the MoU includes private sector projects on fertilizer production, hybrid seeds technology, and agricultural financing, which are projected to attract about $4.3 billion in private sector investment. So Oladunjoye said the agreement marks a new phase of strategic collaboration between Nigeria and FGV. The Green Imperative Project lead implementer is one of the largest international agricultural technology transfer initiatives. Let's speak to Mr. Femi Adelayo, a friend of the house. He's the managing director at FACO West Africa Unlimited. It's good to see you this Monday afternoon. Thank you so much for coming in.
Great. Thank you for having me. It's always good to be here.
Thank you so much. I think we should start with this agreement. When I saw it yesterday and when we were chatting, I said, it looks like a very big one. What is different about this deal with Brazil, and what does it mean for us?
I think it's a wonderful time, really. The president and the team went to Brazil for the G20 summit, and they signed some landmark MOUs, the one you just mentioned. What's different about it is I think there's a little bit more commitment, a little bit more clarity. A lot of people may not understand, but this agreement that you mentioned, it was initially started in about 2018, and it was supposed to be for about $1.2 billion, right, to help in the 774 local governments set up stations and set up service centers to develop the agricultural sector. So I think in this time they've gone to Brazil and then they've reignited that fire. They've started that conversation again to move forward the agricultural sector. So I think it's a wonderful thing. It's a step in the right direction. It's the way to go, absolutely.
So if we to break it down, all our local governments, I know before now we're talking about one food, one product, and our local governments. Would you say that government has been able to take advantage of the produce or farm produce in our local governments? Have we been able to harness it? How well are we doing in addressing food security? Are we taking advantage of what we have in our various local governments?
I think there's still so much to do. I think there is so much more that we can do. The issue with food security is a major challenge for the Nigerian economy. And so having the government pay more attention to the local areas where these foodstuffs are produced is a way to go, clearly. We're not there yet. We're far from it, but we can do a lot better.
Okay, we're having some live pictures from Castina too that we are getting in now. It's a budget presentation ongoing. Yes, that's Governor Diko Rada there, live for you. Yes, Business Nigeria continues as this also shows on other platforms. Stay with TVC News. All right, then now let's tie this together with efforts of federal government now on food security. When this new administration came in, there's this energy that everyone is seeing around it. But specifically, you're a player in this industry. What are some specifics? What do you think? Are there wins for us in the agricultural space in this part of the world?
So far, it's been more hard news than good news, really. there's a lot of hunger in the land. A lot of people are looking to be better off than they were. So there is a lot more that the government can do, and there's a lot more that industry players can do. For example, I'm a member of the Feed Industry Practitioners of Nigeria, and a challenge in the agricultural and the livestock sector is the access and availability of raw materials. Maize, soya, which are the major components of feed production, whether it is for poultry, for cattle, for piggery. And so it's a huge challenge. And what are the real challenges, in that space? Access to land, finance, access to affordable finance, really. Our borders are more porous than they should be. I give you a very good example. Because of the way our currency is now, a lot of stuff is exported out of this country through our land borders. And I don't believe that the federal government is making the kind of money that they can make from these exports that are going on. But we're not able to feed ourselves, right? But then we are exporting. Another side of it is that we need to have value addition into the things that we do. You have people exporting soybean seeds, for example. I mean, the Brazil that we went to and came back from, they've gone through a whole lot. In the 80s, Brazil was nothing to write home about. With technology, with value addition, with innovation, I mean, they were able to move forward their economy. And now they're like about the third largest exporter of grains in the whole world after the US and in India, perhaps. So we need to change some of the approach that we're currently having to ensure that we can do better. I think, like I said earlier, having these agreements, these MoUs, whether it is the one for the livestock or the one with the green imperative project, I think they are in the right steps that we're taking right now, but we need to do a whole lot more.
Funding is something that many will tell you, is it all about funding? Some will say, no, it's not really all about funding. I'd like to talk about that before I go to my next question. Do you think that funding really, let's look at, for example, when we had the Anchor Borrower scheme, we had the central bank as a last, I don't know how much of the percentage of monies that the federal government was able to get back. Some people see these monies like free monies and they get this money and don't want to return to government. Do you think funding is the main issue here?
Funding is one of the main issues because you cannot, for example, access funding about 35%. There's an MPC meeting coming up right now, very soon. And then if you take commercial loans, there is no farmer. There is no farmer on the surface of this earth that can actually take that kind of funding and actually do business with it. Look, it is possible that there might also be sharp practices in some of these sectors, but it might not be the best to throw the baby away with the bathwater. Absolutely, you have to have banks that are focused on agriculture, banks that ensure that, you have the right type of funding at the right type of rates to ensure that the companies or the farmers are able to access these loans. So funding is a key component. Funding helps you get equipment. Funding helps you get the right type of seeds. Funding helps you get the right structure in place to ensure that there is maintenance. So perhaps what we also need to do is to ensure that we have extension workers, we have other people that are tracking the funds disbursed, right, to the farmers, to ensure that whatever you have asked to do with this fund, you do the right thing. So you can't take away funding. There are other issues. The quality of the seeds that we have, for example. You need to have seeds that are, resistant and they're applicable to the land that the Nigerian climate. You need to have training for the people to ensure, because look, if you have a 1.0 mindset, right, and you bring in a 5.0 equipment, the worker will likely scale it down to the level of their capacity. So, I mean, there has to be training consistently and continuously to ensure that we can actually use the systems that we have in place. There has to be an increase in capacity building and development, extension workers, storage solutions, transportation systems, infrastructure, power, alternative power. I mean, these things are things that we have to put into that place. But everything requires a component of funding. But you can't do that at such high interest rates. So, I mean, if you want to keep the inflation in check, yes, you might have what your strategies for doing that. But for the agricultural sector, you have to have a language, a model, an experience, and a process that ensures that we can grow. It's one of the things Brazil did. It's one of the things India did. It's one of the things many of these countries that we are looking up to, they've been there before. They've been where we are. So it is not impossible for us to, to go ahead and excel in this pattern. So that's what I think. That's my thoughts.
Interesting stuff there. We didn't touch on storage, waste, value addition issues. These are also very, very important issues when we talk. We hear of our tomatoes being wasted and all of that. Not just tomatoes, other farm produce. So what are we doing? What are the possible solutions to this?
Look, there has to be clear strategies for ensuring that we reduce waste. I mean, the last time I was here, we talked about almost up to 40 to 50% of perishable items are actually wasted before they get to the end consumer. If you look at grains, for example, maize, soya, millet, wheat, so most farmers farm only for the season because they don't have the opportunities to store. Transportation, the roads are not often in the best of the shape that they should be in. We need to have solutions. For example, in FACO West Africa, we offer solutions to mid-sized storage solutions so that even farmers can actually, after planting and harvesting and drying, you can actually keep your grains closer to home. You don't have to sell to merchants who would hoard and then sell at a higher prices. You are not exposed to pests. You're not exposed to spoilage. And so that we can grow. Imagine if you had more people getting into farming, not just for the season, but for this season and other season, more people. Imagine you have 5 hectares of land, and I have 5 hectares of land. The multiplier effect with the government funding, with the government supporting the storage systems, zero duty on agricultural equipment, and then zero duty. And then even giving subsidies, not for the production per se, but for the processes in between. A reduction in the amount to get your equipment. It makes it easier for the farmers to go. And we have to expand. We can't continue to do local, small-scale farm. There's a place for that. But we have to increase. We have to mechanize. We have to automate. We have to ensure that we grow that sector. Absolutely.
I hope we are ready for all of that. The livestock segment has also been broken out from just agriculture. Are you also in support of that? Because many said for so long that sector has not really gotten so much attention.
Like I said to you the last time, the decision by Mr. President to create a livestock ministry was a brilliant idea.
Wow.
I stand by that. Interestingly, the minister is an amazing person who's been in that industry. So the Minister for Livestock clearly is a person who knows his onions. Not only is he available and aware of the challenges in that industry, he's also ready, willing, and able, I believe, to make the right decision. So the Livestock Ministry was required. It is now online. What is the next step? The next step is to ensure that we tap into this new frontier, this new experience, this new opportunity to be able to develop that, whether it is in poultry, whether it is in cattle, whether it is in sheep and goat, whether it's in piggery, aquaculture, beekeeping. The whole of that value chain requires, the right attention. So it's not just poultry; it's everything else in between it. And if you see some of the agreements Nigeria has signed with Saudi Arabia, for example, to be an exporter of beef in the future to Saudi Arabia, developing that sector ensures that we can become an exporter. We don't have to depend on oil. We don't have to chase only solid minerals, but we can make agriculture an export capacity, ensuring that we make more revenue for this country.
Interesting stuff. Well, let's have an outlook for the global agricultural space. Considering the political issues that are across the globe, we can go on and on. Russia and Ukraine still there. See what's happening in the Middle East and all of that. How do you see that affecting the agricultural value chain moving forward?
It has its own downsides.
Of course.
it also has its own opportunities. I mean, it will be interesting to note that, I mean, Ukraine is in the middle of a war, and Ukraine still produces millions of eggs per month, right? Ukraine still has agriculture. It's not the way it could be, but it also creates an opportunity for Africa and specifically Nigeria to plug in the gaps, right? You know, we need to find the areas where we are competitive, right? Gaza, Israeli conflict, Ukraine-Russia war, response from the difficulties in the Red Sea, challenges to shipping and what have you. They create a lot of bottlenecks and challenges for the agricultural space. But I believe that it also creates an opportunity for Nigeria to become self-sufficient and then an exporter.
So at FACO, now before I let you go, what are you doing? What are you doing to support this course? You know, we have to get it right to our agricultural sector. I think it's piled up for some time. A lot needed to have been done before now. But wherever we find ourselves, where do you think, what have you been doing, and what are your thoughts for the sector? Well,
at FACO West Africa, we believe in automation and mechanization. So we're having conversations and we're speaking with people. We're reaching out to the government. We're reaching out to stakeholders to ensure that we can actually position this country in the way that it ought to go. I've talked about, grain storage. I'm going to talk about poultry, for example, and even piggery and cattle solutions. We are positioned to ensure that people who are interested in the livestock sector, especially in the equipment space, consulting, maintenance, follow-up and add-on services, ensuring that there is a return on investment for their investment, right? We're in that space. We also do a lot of social responsibilities, corporate social responsibilities, speaking to schools, encouraging young children to take agriculture as an important step for national development, and trying to help them see that the agriculture of the future is different from the agriculture of the past. For the future, we believe it's bright. Honestly, we believe it's bright. I'm proud of this country. I know that we have a lot of challenges, but I also believe that with the right steps in place, the government following through on the policies that it has made, listening to the people, ensuring that when there's a shortfall in, for example, raw materials like grains, you can import them. But don't import, empowering the country and the producers to actually produce, rather than perhaps importing, things that we can actually produce here. I think it's the way to go, and the future is absolutely bright.
I must thank you so much for joining us despite your tight schedule, Mr. Femi Adelayo, Managing Director of FACO West Africa Limited. Let me get a handshake. Do stay safe and enjoy yourself.
You too.
Thank you so much. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll talk to Mr. Jami Mohammed,